What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the NFL Week 9 Weekend Review Show, where we had some crazy games, some intense finishes, some massive fails, and some great successes. So let's get into it. All right, what's up, everyone? My name is Kevin Allen, aka The Geek from DFS Army, and every single week of the NFL season, what we like to do is look back on the content, on the results, on the Milli Maker, on the cash games, everything we could look at, and on the DFS Army tools that we had at our disposal to see how we did, how do we do in our tournament entries, how do we do in our cash games, and what could we do better, what can we do worse, etc., etc. It's all about confirmation. You have to repeat a process and confirm every single week to, hey, did I fuck up? Did the tools fuck up? Was it a week that did we do great? Figure it all out. So, as always, what I like to do is get started by taking a look at Draftkings NFL cash games. Cash games have a formula. We talk about it every single week. If you go back to watch every single one of these weekend review shows, we talk about this every week. The formula for cash games is pretty much to find safety in ownership. And in order to do so, we want to reference the DFS Army chalkboard where we kind of spell out where the safety plays, where the high owned plays are. Before we get into that, though, I want to congratulate DFS Army Milli Maker writer Burns for taking 3 more tickets to the Draftkings King of the Beach. I am wearing the King of the Beach shirt in celebration of Burns. Burns writes the Shark Autopsy article, the Milli Maker, How to Beat the Milli Maker article for DFS Army every single week. And DFS Army VIPs, I hope you read it. He fucking crushes it. And of course, we love that he took down 3 more tickets. That's 3 more bullets at trying to make his way to Miami. Take me with you, bro. I'm in. Take me with you. Need a +1. I'll be there. I'll be your personal coach if I don't get in. I think it's too late. So I'll be your personal coach if it's not too late. Anyway, getting back into it, let's take a look at cash games this week. And what I've highlighted here is the NFL Giant $5 double up. And I like to look at this one because this gives you sort of the bare minimum score it took to cash. And it did not take a big score this week, people. This was a very, very down week for DFS scoring. And it's very obvious here as you take a look and you see this 117.9 score, good enough to cash. That was the one that bubbled. So that was the min score you needed to cash. And with this person, really didn't have any good plays in this lineup. Hunter Renfro is pretty obvious. Jalen Waddle, who people got off after the tour news. We could talk a little bit about that when we get to the GPP discussion. You know, some turd here. This is just a terrible lineup. And yet here we go. Dolphins defense made the cut. So cash games still very beatable. But I want to show you something here. Essentially, I want to show you the DFS Army chalkboard from yesterday. Because again, every single time we talk about the cash game, we say, what do you use to make your decisions? Reference the chalkboard, right? That's all you really need in order to make great cash game decisions. And let's see what the chalkboard, let me make it a little bigger so you guys can see. This is not a tool that we change. This is what you had. This is the same chalkboard that every DFS Army subscriber got a chance to look at yesterday. We all had it at our disposal. There's nothing new about it. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger on the screen, hopefully so that you can see this well. Maybe it's a little too big, but here we go. So you can see what we're talking about. So the chalkboard, what did it tell us to do at quarterback? It said play Lamar. Now, interestingly, we barely avoided the disaster that was Josh Allen. And wow, what a disaster that was, right? There's always risk. I mean, that wasn't even non-competitive. I don't know what the fuck happened. That's just weird shit that happens in the NFL. Pat Mahomes was the same. What the fuck happened there? I don't know, right? At some point, I don't know. But luckily, the chalkboard got us on to Lamar Jackson. Very easy play. The highest owned quarterback. Always play the highest owned quarterback in your cash game. And of course, Lamar Jackson smashed. If you just played Lamar Jackson, I don't want to jump around too much, but if you just played Lamar, I mean, 71% of cash game people played him. So you had the safety in case he failed. If he failed, it didn't really hurt you because everybody played him. But if he's success, you pretty much wiped out 30% of the field that didn't play him. The other one that it told us to play, Zeke Elliott. Zeke Elliott was, well, let's go back to the chalkboard here. Let's go back to the chalkboard because it's interesting to take a look at that. Here we go. It's interesting to take a look at that and look at all the position groups. But so Lamar Jackson was the clear-cut top play at quarterback, and he, of course, smashed. The chalkboard told you that. Now let's go to wide receiver. Now, interestingly, we didn't actually get to adjust Jalen Waddle for the last-second news on the ownership. So I believe his ownership projection probably would have went down had that news of Tua not being in there come out. But in the end of the day, Marquise Brown was the standout wide receiver on the chalkboard. And if you take a look here again, you see that Marquise Brown absolutely smashed, got the little red fire emoji, great play. So it looks like this person right here was pretty much working off our chalkboard a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit here. So Lamar Jackson to Marquise Brown was what the chalkboard told you to do. And if you follow the rest of it, Jalen Waddle had a really good game, 17 points at 5,600. Great for cash. For the most part, Jamar Chase was a fail, dropped a couple touchdowns. I don't think Brandon Cooks did all that much. Tyreek Hill couldn't really afford him in cash. So, as you went down the list, I think the next up for me would have been Amari Cooper or T. Higgins. Cooper kind of failed. Higgins had success. Hunter Renfro was another standout. He was popping in our projection model. Hunter Renfro in our projection model popped harder than any other player, and he was the obvious third play in your cash lineup this week. So, but that kind of lineup really would have smashed. We don't even need, I'll probably look up top here. Let's see if, here, A Raven basically followed our chalkboard to a T. This is actually the perfect lineup. If you take a look at this, this is exactly what the chalkboard told you to play. And that came in 17th place. It was a very obvious lineup. A lot of people tied in this with this lineup because it was extremely obvious. And as you can see, Lamar Jackson, Chubb, Brown, they're all, if you look at the chalkboard here again, Chubb, Zeke, Eckler, that is the combo that you see here. So it's Eckler, Zeke, Chubb. I'm wondering if A Raven's part of DFS Army. Probably is. So Lamar Jackson, trio of running backs, spelled out exactly on the chalkboard. Then you've got Albert O at tight end. Very obvious play as well. Boom. Chiefs defense, most obvious defense on the slate. And then a trio of Brown, Higgins, and Renfro. Now, choosing the right trio of wide receivers, really important for that lineup, but not the end-all be-all. Again, Brown, who was it? T. Higgins, Hunter Renfro. You couldn't really afford a different combination. So there it was. It was all spelled out for us. Pretty much not even just a very good cash lineup, but a very good overall lineup for this slate. It's pretty well spelled out. And there's nothing I would change about the approach that A Raven used or M. Donato, the same exact lineup. We knew that Higgins had been coming off of heavy targets the previous few weeks, 15, 6, 6, 8, 6. Those are good numbers for a 5K player. Marquise Brown also very heavily targeted, 14, 10, 5, 10. He'd just been extremely consistent. We talked about this on the Players Club where he had only hit below 19 fantasy points twice all season. That's a great play, a very consistent player who's not perceived that way. Third, and Renfro, another high targets guy. Didn't expect him to get the touchdown. I didn't love Renfro as much. I avoided him in tournaments, but, he made for a perfectly acceptable cash play with, slightly above expectations target numbers, considering that Ruggs was gone for his team. Ogwe Gonkenbaum was just the cheapest viable tight end. Chiefs were not just the cheapest viable tight end, but a defense, but a team going up against a crappy opposing quarterback who had shown a propensity to give lots of interceptions. So, with that being said, DFS Army tools on point. Chalkboard, once again, literally laid out what was pretty close to the perfect lineup in cash right there. Chiefs, of course, easily the top defense. It was just spelled out for us right in front of our faces. The only real thinking we had to do was at wide receiver, which of this group to really choose. And not going to lie, there were a bunch of duds in the chalk. There was a lot of chalk fails this week, guys. A lot of chalk fails. But Brown, Waddle, your top two projected, both did really well. And then, of course, Higgins, Renfro did well. Diggs was fine. I don't really even know what Brandon Cooks did. I'm not sure what Jamar Chase did, but these guys probably did not pay off their salaries. Now, moving on to the Milli Maker. We love us some Milli Maker winners, right? So let's take a look at this week's DraftKings Milli Maker. Let's see who won the money. And how do you like that? Once again, we've got, I haven't looked at this. I haven't even looked at this. This is the first I'm looking at it, guys. I went through the chalkboard, and for the top three at each position, I put their ceiling projection into the Dom, and lineup scored like 165. There you go. You can actually use, if you just go back to the Dom station right now and click, optimize, you'll see like what it would have kicked out, by the way. But you don't even need to use the ceiling. You just smash a like on them or a love. You don't have to use the ceiling projection. Just smash a love on the players that you want, and it will just pop them in a lineup for you. So I don't have that open. I could go back and do it on the Dom station. I'm not sure if it's archived yet, but as a separate note, it's really important that you back test every single week, every sport. If you are not using the domination station and back testing your theories and your approach, you're not going to get good at DFS. That's why we do what we do. That's why we do the weekly reviews. This is about getting better every week. We want to hone our craft and be better at what we're doing. I can't stress enough how important it is. And when you guys, if you're a DFS Army subscriber and you come back to me and you're like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, I ask the first question, are you back testing? I get a lot of questions in our Discord about whether, what settings should I use on the optimizer? Right? What settings should I use? I've gotten 5 questions today. What are the ideal settings? What settings should I use? And what I tell you is, listen, everybody has a slightly different tolerance for risk. It's more important to understand what the settings do and then understand your tolerance for risk. Some people have a higher risk tolerance that you might go fewer uniques and very, very heavy on certain players. And other people want to do a major spread. And what we do every week on this breakdown show is we look at mass multi-entry players right here using the Fantasy Labs contest dashboard. I look at the contest and I look at the players who entered them, and we can see what approach they're using. And it's very interesting. Certain players who are really, really great use a very spread out approach with a really high number of uniques and not going very heavy on any one player. And others go very heavy on a few different spots, and they try to win those few weeks, but they accept that when they're not winning, they lose all their money. And I'll show you a few examples of it because I'm now starting to learn which players do what. But let's start off with the Milli Maker winning lineup. Congrats to R. Bradley 23, who put in just one lineup this week. Just one. And took down $1 million. It can happen. It happened to R. Bradley 23. It could happen to you. Could. Probably not going to, but it could. Not financial advice, but it could. But it probably won't. Probably never going to happen to you. But just saying, it could. Most likely it won't, though. Anyway, let's take a look at what R. Bradley 23 put together. Ooh, a little Justin Herbert action here. And guys, he won $1 million with the 4 and the 9. 2 shitty scores. How did he do it? How did he do it? He played James Conner. That's how he did it. He played fucking James Conner. That could have even been a swap. I wonder if that was a late swap. Where are you, R. Bradley 23? DM me at FFootballGeek. I want to know if Conner was a late swap. Maybe he had somebody else in there. And he's like, you know what? Everybody's going to play this guy. I'm gonna switch it up. Was that a late swap? Who the fuck played Conner? 2% owned. How do you like that? Plays fucking Zach Moss. Still wins the million. I love it. So let's talk about what R. Bradley 23 did here. So we've got a Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Marquise Brown, triple stack. Okay. Good starting point, guys. Triple stack. We talked about Nick Chubb and what a great play he was all week. That was pretty obvious. But here, he did correlate Nick Chubb with Cleveland defense. Correlation. That's considered a correlated secondary stack. You know what else is considered a correlated secondary stack? Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki. So this almost looks like this lineup was generated using the Domination Station correlative lineup builder, because there are two secondary correlations. So a primary QB +2, +1 as we call it, QB pass catcher, opposing pass catcher. Interesting, he avoided Austin Eckler in favor of Keenan Allen, which was a little unique. Then you've got the secondary stack of Chubb, Cleveland defense. Then you've got another secondary correlative stack, Gesicki and Waddle. Finally, just a one-off on Zach Moss and a one-off on James Conner. And like I said, I suspect that maybe the Conner one-off might have been like a late swap. I don't know why. I have no reason why, but I just do. He was probably trying to get on a low-owned player. I don't know. But here's what's great about this. R. Bradley proved that you don't have to have the perfect lineup or anywhere near it to win $1 million. As a matter of fact, while everybody was whinging and tilting early about, oh, my lineups aren't working, what they weren't understanding was no one's lineups were working because all of the chalk failed. That's going to happen. There are going to be those kind of weeks where most of the chalk shits the bed. Now, what's interesting for me is that, this one went the opposite, where with Herbert and Keenan Allen and Brown, but this exact same lineup could have been achieved with, it is a single bullet. That is a one entry $1 million winner. And what's interesting for me, guys, is this one, he could have put, if you just plugged in Lamar Jackson here for a couple hundred more, the lineup doesn't change all that much. You might, it probably could have done a little something different at tight end. It wouldn't hurt you. So there were a lot of paths to this win involving Lamar Jackson as well. And this was a game where we looked at the beginning, not Lamar Jackson, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm totally misreading this. This was Eagles. This was not so this is this is a game stack. I'm sorry. I fucking confused. Lamar and the Vikings. Herbert and the Chargers. So let's back it up a second. Yeah. I just had a brain fart. That's why I should look at this before, and because I like to see it and have a reaction. But that's funny. Yeah. You're right. So let's back it up. So what we've got here is actually not a correlative play, but rather a Herbert Allen single stack. No bring back from the Eagles. Instead, there's no correlative component to Marquise Brown. The only correlative components here are the two secondary correlative plays, which are Chubb, Cleveland defense, and Waddle and Gesicki as this sort of unusual pairing. And actually, another thing that could have happened here was that when the Tua news came out, maybe he had Tua at the helm and switched it up to Herbert and did something like that. They said it would take a miracle for Murray to play. There we go. That Sunday morning, but never ruled him out. So Solomon was a no-brainer. I don't know if Conner was ever a no-brainer, but I mean, it did work out. So if you had been next level thinking, it's Kyler Murray who steals all those touchdowns. But I think the big part about Conner's great game was more that, Chase Edmonds got hurt. But yes, if you think about it, Conner had an elevated touchdown expectation in that game without Murray because Kyler Murray likes to steal the touchdowns. I don't know. I mean, Solomon makes a good point that if you were next level thinking, you might have thought, maybe if the Arizona was going to be competitive, maybe that I didn't think this way. So, credit to anybody who did. Credit to anybody who did. But there is a secondary thought that said, and by the way, Edmonds got hurt, but he came into the game a little banged up as well. So, you could have inferred that maybe Edmonds gets hurt in game. We can infer, and it's worth taking a shot at Milli Maker. I think the part that got me was just the fact that Arizona won and they dominated, and that was very unexpected without Kyler Murray. Like that for me was unexpected. But then again, you know what? On the Wise Guys show this past week, Anthony Gargano put that shit out there. He picked San Francisco to dominate the game, and that's what they did. That dude fucking crushes the picks. So they're definitely sharp people who were thinking that the 49ers would lose. And if they were losing, with Colt McCoy at the helm, I guess one could infer, And maybe that's what happened here. Hey, we found out Murray's out. He's like, you know what? No Murray, more touchdowns for Connor. Whatever it is, the guy did it well. I apologize earlier for confusing, Brown for it's a different game, for confusing Brown and that it was the Eagles here. So there is no game stack here. This was just strictly a team stack, 2-person with some secondary correlative plays. And I think the most bizarre thing here is to have Waddle and Gesicki together. I actually think this is an error, in my opinion. Have those two together in a lineup without their quarterback. So if those two really went off for a tournament winning score most of the time, that would have dragged Tua along with them, or Brissett. I just think this line was probably made before that news came out, and it was just left this way for whatever reason. Before that news that Tua wasn't playing. That's my best guess. But either way, congrats to R. Bradley 23 for taking down the Milli. Now, what I always like to do is take a look at some mass multi-entry people who mass entered the. Let's see if we can find any mass entry people who made money. All right, it looks like here's one. Dodged you. We did not have Connor as a 4-star core play. No, we did not have Connor. I didn't have Connor on the list at all, in fairness. Oh, just to go to the cheat sheet. Yeah. I hope this isn't like somebody being confused and saying that. Where's the cheat sheet? Hang on. Yeah, my sheet did not have Connor on it at all. So I'm going to, if you think he was on the sheet, I don't think so. No. We had Brandon Ayuk. Yeah. I could show you. This is my cheat sheet from the past week. Certainly, missed on Mahomes, hit on Lamar. We had Herbert, but we had a lot of misses. We had Hurts. We had Teddy Bridgewater, who did really well. Really great game, but it wasn't a great stack of anything. And then a little exposure. My favorite play of the week was always Tua, but we had to pull him out. Running back was tough. I did not have Connor on my list at all. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I definitely didn't. I don't want it to appear like that. I said to oh, that came off. Like I didn't tell people to play Connor. That was a shocking play. That's what won $1 million. So anyway, let's take a look at. I like to see what sort of the mass multi-entry people did. I think it's really important because a lot of us want to mass multi-enter, and one of the most important things we got to figure out is this a profitable approach to DFS? And once again, I will show you this as I show you every single week. If you take a look, I've just sorted by people who entered 150. And this, if you ever hear people on social media talking about, oh, of course you made money, you made 150. The reality is it's much harder to cash positively when you enter 150 lineups than it is when you enter just one. And I'm going to show you why. If you enter just one lineup, let me give you a little math, do a little math breakdown. And by the way, stick around on the YouTube channel if you like this type of content. Right after this, we will be doing the showdown breakdown, where my turds at special and lots of turds on both sides, Steelers, Bears tonight. So that's coming up around 5 p.m. Eastern, maybe 5:05. Got to set it up after we finish this stream. But what I want to show you, so stick around, like, subscribe, all that stuff. If you want DFS content, you like this type of thing. Now, back to my point. Everybody says, well, if I entered 150 lineups, I can make money all the time. I will prove to you that it's the opposite. So let's say these contests, 25% of entries cash are net positive, right? Overall, most people lose, but 25% of your entries, if you just randomly, if I'm equal, if the field was equal, everybody's the same level of player, 25% of lineups cash in a major GPP. That's the payout ratio, right? Of course, you don't even double your money unless you're like top 5%, which is why I highly recommend smaller tournaments, 50-person to 200-person. That should be where you live in DFS. Your goal in life should be to win like a 300-person contest. That's it. Trying to win these lotto tickets, you're going to lose a lot of money doing it. And I'm going to show you how. So going in, the natural expectation is anybody who's like equal knowledge should have about a 25% chance to cash in a giant GPP. Now, I've just sorted the entries by 150 entries, right? To show you all of the people that entered 150 lineups. And we're going to find the ratio. I've done this every single week. And quite honestly, the ratio is usually only 7% net positive. So your expectation going in when you enter 150 should be that I will lose money 93% of the time. If I enter 100 tournaments, 93 of them, with mass multi-entry, 93 of them, 93 of them are going to lose. So I could do this 100 times. 93 times going to lose. And if I entered one lineup 100 times, I'm only going to lose 75% of them. So you lose way more often mass multi-entering than you would entering one lineup. Of course, what we're trying to do is increase our odds of hitting the miraculous first place finish, and it makes up for all the losing. So once again, to prove it, let's count the winners. This is 150 entry people. Let's count the winners. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There we go. 12, 13, 14, 15. Got a big winner, right? 15 on page 1. Let's go to page 2. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So once again, our numbers hold up. Our numbers hold up. In this case, a little bit better than usual. 10% of people that entered 150 lineups wound up net positive. 90% lost money. Now let's take some well-known mass multi-entry people and take a look at their exposures. We start with the number one player, Mr. Osimo himself. And let's see what he did here. Ooh, a lot of Rondale Moore. Eating that late chalk. So our boy, Alex Osimo, 22% Derek Carr, 12% Josh Allen, Lamar, Hurts, a little Simeon, Jones. It gets kind of gross. A little bit of Love, a little bit of Herbert, not enough. That's why you lose money. Went down on Pat Mahomes. This is the Milli maker, Steve. This is $25, I think. 20 or 25. So there you go. Solomon crushing in college football. We love it. I think our college football is the best in the industry by far. I don't know anybody that even comes close. So if you're in a spot where you're eligible to play college football, I am not. I don't get to play it. I'm in New York. Those fuckers don't let us play college sports or gamble on college sports here. I don't get it. It's fucking bullshit, but that's what it is. All right. So I just like to see what people do, right? So 22%. Here we go. Very high on Alvin Kamara. Again, this is why you lose money. A lot of Chase Edmonds. He's kind of wishing he played Connor instead. Really a lot of misses up top here. More interestingly, it's just that going 34%. Max at running back for Kamara, and then significantly down from there. My guess is he uses a very high number of uniques. Yeah, this is eating the value chalk. Rondale and Hunter Renfro were popping as two of the highest values by the time we found out that DeAndre Hopkins would be out. So he probably loaded up on Rondale, especially with an adjustment after he was maybe losing the early slates. Jarvis Landry didn't work out. Jalen Waddle, we all liked him. T. Higgins, just a lot of misses here that are going to lead to a lot of losses, unfortunately. Tight end, a lot of Darren Waller. There you go. Again, I look at the totals and you kind of see, all right, he's definitely willing to go very high on two or three spots. So that's the Osimo approach. I've seen that quite a bit. Here's another player that I am very familiar with. A lot of sharp players. When you look up who's putting 150 lineups into the Milli maker, just understand these are some of the best players. You don't last putting out $3,000 into a contest every single week. Like, you'll wipe out your bankroll if you don't win these once in a while. So win these style of contests once in a while. So here's Utica, who is also a very, very good player, very sharp fellow. So let's see what he does. Dude, you've hit some pretty good numbers, Steve. Man, good luck keeping it up. I hope you took down a tournament, though, along the way. But just know what to expect. You're at 50%. The average is 10%, and that average includes the best players, literally the best players in the world. So just bear in mind what you should be expecting. Hopefully you get a win along the way. So just looking at a couple other people here, we've got, Utica. I like to see what he does each week. So he's limiting Max around 36%, went very high on Chase Edmonds. Again, maybe the same thought process that put people on Connor. There you go. Yeah, that's the shit. That's the shit. Well, you hit that second, that pays for your whole season of MME. That's what you do. That's what you do. It pays for the whole season. So that's what you need to achieve. You did it in 6 slates. That's fucking awesome. And I love it. But that's what you got to do. Yeah, here we go. Won the 25K CSGO. Valiant. I think our esports guy, I said college football. One of the things, DFS Army, listen, DFS Army is really known for especially NASCAR and esports and college football and soccer, like some of the what we call niche sports, because we put a lot of effort into them. A lot of effort goes into those. So I'm glad to see you guys are having success. I see Valiant. I assume that's the name of an esports game. So awesome, right? Valiant. I just told a friend of mine, one of my guys, said, "Hey, get off of World of Warcraft. That shit is addicting." I mean, my personal advice. All right. Looking at anyway, going back to Utica. We'll look at one more after this. I'm just going on who pops up, whose names pop up. I'm not trying to we'll do next somebody who won money. But Utica definitely spreading out exposures pretty well. Not going over 36% at running back. Let's see, wide receiver, 35%. So that seems to be his limit. Amari Cooper was popping his value. These are the value guys. He played the value plays. I mean, that's cool. That's cool. Went high on Goddard, fine. Dan Arnold. And then Cleveland defense, that really would have helped. They smashed. I don't really know. And then look at this, a fade of Chiefs defense, full fade, unfriend you. So he made the decision to fully fade the high-owned defenses for whatever that's worth. Notice a lot of leverage at defense here. He's playing very heavily on defenses that maybe weren't super popular. So, interesting approaches. Let's find somebody who actually made some money. Let's find what a winning MME guy did. I think there was one person who won like 25K. Here he is. So let's look at Dodged U, aka Dogged University. Don't know him. But let's see what he did. All right. So look at that. Very, very wide spread of exposures at quarterback. Played a little of everybody. Interesting. On a week like this where the shit hit the fan, it kind of worked. Did that at quarterback, but at running back, Cordero, who the fuck would have thought, right? I mean, Jacobs, all pretty common plays here. A little below the field on Nick Chubb. Let's see who the reverse leverage was. Went very low on Eckler. Interesting. On Kamara, full fade. Dalvin Cook fade. Yeah, okay. Faded some of these busts. That always helps. Wide receiver, nothing really unusual here. I'm seeing, again, a lot of leverage fades of some of the higher owned guys. Not really sure what to make of that. And then, of course, at tight end, also keeping it relatively tight exposures, relatively low and tight exposures. So that will that's really interesting. I just want to check out and see what kind of stacks we got. So let's take a look at the best lineup, the winning lineup from Dogged University. Herbert. All right, let's see what we got here. Another Herbert, Allen, Brown. But in this case, and here we go. Okay, so this should have won. And this is what that other person should have did, but they didn't win. So take a look here. You've got a Herbert, Allen, Devonta Smith game stack. Now we're talking. Got a full game stack going, right? Herbert, Allen, Smith. Now we've got 2 value plays at running back, Devontae Booker, Myles Gaskin. Myles Gaskin was a chalk. Devontae Booker, if you look at he was one of my favorite plays, and he got hurt in game, but he was smashing. For me, he was my, let me go to my cheat sheet just to point out that my sheet for the week that I was all over Booker as one of my favorite plays. He was my highest rated play. I just loved Booker this week. I believe the chalkboards are definitely archived. Everything we do is archived. So actually, no, I don't know if the chalkboard is archived. I'm not sure. But if you look at the Domination Station archives, we have our ownership. So I'm not sure, but ask our admin COO Texan 0322 in Discord, and he can let you know. But it's been on every one of our weekend reviews, so you've been able to watch it every single week. It's been incredibly all season long. Like, you need to be following the chalkboard. So where was I? Okay. So really interesting. So Herbert, Brown, Smith, Herbert, Allen, Smith, QB 1-1. We've got 2 value running backs. Fine. Now what? The big play here was New England defense. I mean, they were a pay-up defense, super low owned, put up 28 points. That was the nuts play. That got him all the way up here. Had he not done that, he also had a great play here on Cordero Patterson. That's pretty much all it took. A couple of mediocre plays. Keenan Allen, fine. David Njoku didn't do anything. Whatever. Could have paid down for Albert Ogunbaum and been pretty much just as good. So, yeah, there was just nowhere else to improve. Really, 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 really nice overall lineup. Let's see what some of these other ones did. I just want to see if there's a pattern here of QB 1-1. Let's see. Prescott. This is not a stack at all. This is an unstacked lineup. Yeah. Played an unstacked lineup. What the fuck? Who does that? Why? Worked. Dak didn't do anything. None of Dak's wide receivers did much, but geez. Unstacked Dak. How do you like that? Jimmy G with Ayuk. And no bring back. Nothing from Arizona. Interesting. Hurts. Unstacked. This is just literally a run of random lineups. Here's a stacked Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah, I'm not going to take too much away from this. It's a little weird. Keeping it real. Unstacked Kirk Cousins. Oh, no, Kirk with Thielen, which didn't even work, but, you know. All right, that one is stacked at least. Looks like he'll run some unstacked lineups. Really interesting. Matt Ryan with just one. Teddy Bridgewater, Cortland Sutton. So most of these are stacked lineups, actually, as I look through. Just that first one wasn't. How do you like that? Pretty bizarre. Anyway, all right, guys. That'll do it. I'm short for time. I want to get to the showdown breakdown, so that'll be it. But this is what I do every single week. I like to go in, like to see what worked, see what didn't work. Again, chalkboard once again gave you the clear-cut, easy formula. It's still up on the site. Clear-cut, easy formula for how to win your cash games. It's all right here in tournaments. You know, obviously, this was a tricky one. A lot of busts, a lot of players that were high owned that busted. But what we noticed once again is what took down the million. It was correlative stack. It was a lineup with 3 correlations in it. So continue to focus on correlation. I'm not seeing as much where QB +2 is winning. So this season, it just doesn't seem to be working. So if you want to get off of QB 2 pass catchers and 1 from the opposing team and just do QB 1-1 lineups, I think that's okay to do. I think the other approach has been getting people killed. It'll eventually come back around, though. So let's not go too crazy reacting, even to a 9-week sample size. I've already discussed a little bit about why I think that stuff is happening. That I think a lot of it is just because these games are just not as competitive this year as we've seen in the past. There's a real discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots. But a little bit is just, for years and years, we did QB 1-1. And then we got onto QB +2 and then won for the last couple of years. Won a bunch of times. Maybe do a little bit of both. I don't know. Anyway, we'll be back as always next. Got another week of excitement coming up, but we are not done with week 9 as of yet. Stick around 5-10 minutes or so. We will go to the showdown breakdown where Maturd's at special, where we're going to debate whether or not we should start Steelers defense as our captain, Bears defense, 2 defenses. Maybe these teams, can 2 teams score negative? I don't know. We might get that. What is QB11? QB11. QB, 1 pass catcher from the same team, 1 player from the opposing team. That's a game stack, right? We might do QB 2-1, which is QB 2 pass catchers from his same team, 1 player from opposing team. That 1 from the opposing team does not need to be a pass catcher. It could be a running back. It could be a tight end. It could be a wide receiver. It doesn't matter. It's 1 player from the opposing. And what I've learned, and I'm going to throw this at you guys, what I've learned is there are a couple of players, including Lamar Jackson, where I believe that Lamar doesn't go off unless the opposing team definitely goes off. So I'm going to be and I did this past week and it should have worked, but it didn't. But it should have, but it didn't. I'm doing Lamar QB +1, then 2 players from the opposing team. Because from what I've seen of Lamar Jackson specifically, he only turns it up when his team is down. So if they could play defense and sit in the run and whatever, he's not turning it up. The time when Lamar Jackson goes off is when the opposing team's scoring a lot. So my new approach specifically for Lamar is QB 1-2. Boom. Let that stew for a minute. All right. That's going to do it for the week in review show, everyone. Showdown breakdown coming up next. Stick around. This channel, like, subscribe, notify, all that stuff. Do it. Push the button. Hit the like. Thumbs up. You know what to do. All right, guys. I'll see you in a minute. Deuces.